had a new book, and if you see this sea slug, call the scuba police and send me super likes. We're underwater in the Philippines, in Dauin, on a Muck diving site. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a fire urchin, and we will later talk about the dangerous spines and about the venom of this urchin. On top of the urchin is a little bulb. That's its anus. We're also going to discuss that later. But for now, please look at the little white critter on the right side. That's a zebra crab. The zebra crab has found itself an amazingly safe niche on the body surface of this urchin. It's protected by the spines of the larger echinoderm. You can see the crab is very active. I believe it's feeding on detritus, which gets swept onto the body surface of this urchin. Now, obviously you can see the spines, which look like a giant game of Mikado around the crab. Sometimes if you look closely, you can also see little claspers on the body surface of the urchin. These are called pedicellariae. They evolved from 3 spines each, and their main function is to remove parasites and dirt from the body surface of this animal. Now, I'm not sure if the crab is just a commensal, if it just lives there, or if it's a parasite or a mutualist symbiont, that it does either damage or benefit to the larger urchin. That would be a very interesting topic of research. Now, in the middle of the urchin, there's this beautiful little bulb. It's a very pretty structure, and this is the anal bulb. There is actually another crab, which is a parasite in these crab anuses. I've made a previous video about that, and I'm linking to it. So this kind of started as a running gag 15 years ago in Okinawa, that I would photograph and film these anuses. Now, coming back to the crab. So the spines are an amazing protection for this small animal. I never got properly stung by one of these fire urchins. I once just mildly touched the tip of a spine with my elbow when trying to take a photograph, and the effect felt like a pretty hefty electric shock. So very careful when observing these crabs, please. It's not just the crabs which are associated with these fire urchins. Here we have a juvenile sweetlip fish, which is about 3 centimeters long. It will grow into a sizable fish. And these don't live on the body surface of the urchins, but they try to live around them very often. So again, I would assume this is protection from predators. The fire urchins are not actually stationary, so after a while this one had enough of my filming and took off. Fascinating animals, not harmless. Check them out. Next, we have a crinoid, or feather star. This is also an echinoderm, like a sea urchin, but these are filter feeders. And sometimes they walk. So I took this video and then I sped it up by a factor of 4, so that you can appreciate the walk. They don't have a centralized brain, but they still manage to coordinate all the arms quite well. So these arms are, in this case, for walking. Normally, they are stuck out into the water column, and they harvest plankton. Very curious animals. Just like the sea urchins, they have a lot of commensal crustaceans living on them. And this one tried to get to another spot when I was filming it. So here's another crinoid. This is not walking anywhere, but it's sitting on the top of this little coral bommy and trying to harvest plankton, as I've mentioned before. Now, as promised, I want to show you one of the animals which live within the arms of that crinoid. So in this case, we are not talking about a crustacean, but we have a crinoid clingfish here. So this is a small family of marine fishes, the clingfishes. And look at the body patterning and at the color of this animal. So it's highly adapted to blend in visually with its crinoid host. These guys are not easy to film. There isn't really anything where I could place my camera on, so I was essentially hovering above this crinoid and catching footage of this tiny fish which doesn't want to hold still because it prefers to be not seen, which is the whole point of its existence within that crinoid. So in this case I saw one crinoid clingfish. In some cases there is a pair, and in other cases they share these crinoids with squat lobsters and shrimps, which was also not the case here. For some reason, Dauin and the neighboring municipalities, where I mostly dive, are a real hotspot of this echinoderm commensals. So there is barely a crinoid or an urchin or a sea star where you don't find a little shrimp or something like this crinoid clingfish living on. So amazing animals, and this is something you should be on the lookout when you are doing muck diving. Okay, back to the sea urchins. This is what's called a hard urchin, and it seems to almost have hair instead of spines. So in the course of the evolution of these animals, the spines became very thin. And I believe this has to do with the burrowing lifestyle of these animals. So what they feed on is the material they get from the sand. There is also sand and a few small pebbles on top of this animal. So this is also a strategy which a lot of sea urchins really follow, to decorate themselves with material as a type of camouflage and to weigh themselves down. Now, I believe in the muck diving environment, there are always a lot of these, but they're buried. And sometimes they come out. So this video I shot in Zamboanguita, just south of Dauin, and you can see the enormous numbers of these animals. So there is a small razoress, but other than that, the sand here is completely dominated by these hard urchins. And so I'm swimming here at a relatively normal pace. This is about 16 meters deep, and this whole sandy area is completely filled with one hard urchin next to the other. So I would have to guess that'd be like 6 or 7 per square meter. I think it's mainly the helmet snail, the Cassis cornuta, which feeds on these, and there seems to be a pretty short food chain here. So, microorganisms and detritus film in the sand, hard urchins, and then the Cassis. Fascinating stuff again. Finally, enough of the echinoderms. Now we have a sea slug, a nudibranch, named Bata. It sits on an anchor line. This is a man-made habitat, an artificial reef, if you will. And it feeds on a tunicate. So this blue animal here is its food. These nudibranchs, this particular species, seems to be very specialized in feeding on tunicates. So, let me say, Mahlzeit. Finally, if you have made it that far, you probably enjoy my raving. So please check out the books which I wrote, in this case together with my friend of colleague James Reimer, about environmental problems in the ocean. Out with Asian Geographic. With them I have a previous book which I still enjoy, with lots of lovely pictures by myself and Marty Snyderman. It's called The Lives of Gobies. And finally, I also wrote about neuroscience and scuba diving physiology, and it's called Your Brain on Diving. So support the channel, buy these books, send me super likes, and leave some comments, be a friend. Bye.